Welcome, everybody. My name is Gabe Yen, and I'm a technical marketing engineer at Nozomi Networks. Today, we are going to be introducing something really exciting, asset risk, which is available to all of our Vantage customers. So how do you access this? Let's have a look. When you go into your assets tab, you'll have a list of all your assets. And then when you click on one of the assets, you will get to this particular page. So I have clicked before entering this session and before starting the recording. So I entered into the details of this HMI that we have in our lab. And you can see, for example, the overall risk with a score that has been calculated based on different components. This is new. This is part of the asset risk feature set. But when you go into the risk tab, you can see the details on the elements that affected this particular asset when it comes to risk. So we see three different elements here. So vulnerabilities is one of them, AI analysis and device risk. So when you go into vulnerabilities, you can see, for example, how the vulnerabilities affect the end score, the final score. So vulnerabilities has a value of 56 and it has a weight, which, by the way, can be modified depending on your needs. So if you believe that vulnerabilities is something that is extremely important, the most important thing of everything, even more than this, you can modify this weight and make it even more important. So it's going to affect the final score in a more dramatic way. So right now we are using the defaults. And something that I wanted to see is, for example, the AI analysis, because we utilize artificial intelligence for many of our sets of features. When we develop features, we definitely take into consideration AI. Vantage IQ is one of these examples. And AI analysis is giving us this particular insight. It's telling us this is a highly vulnerable asset. So yeah, of course it's highly vulnerable, but how did we come to this conclusion? Well, when you go into the vulnerabilities, you can see that this asset only has 25 different vulnerabilities. So it's very, very vulnerable. Other things that can be identified, for example, if you have a highly vulnerable asset that has been communicating to the outside world, AI is going to tell you things like, for example, a vulnerable asset is exposed. So it's not only a matter of how vulnerable a particular asset is, but if this asset is communicating to the outside world, is this thing actually exposed to external actors that can exploit any type of vulnerabilities that are affecting this asset? So these are things that can be revealed by the AI analysis. So apart from that, let's go back to the risk. You can see all the things, right? So in the vulnerabilities risk, you can see how many of these vulnerabilities are open, how many of them are critical, exploitable, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see in the device risk, for example, the type of device, the technology category. This is an HMI, so it's an OT device. The type of connection that this device has. It could be a wireless device. It could be, in this case, it's an Ethernet device. It's connected directly via cable. And if we have any type of life cycle information that has been identified. Now, how important this thing is. So you can get, once again, you can get to it by clicking on the assets tab. Any asset that we have in our inventory will have this information available. I'm going to click on another one. So this is a less dramatic one. So it's a Melsec series PLC. You can see the overall risk is lower. It's 8. And we haven't identified any vulnerabilities, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let's say you have some queries saved and you want to utilize these queries to identify which assets are the most vulnerable ones. So I created one query for this particular purpose. So I can run this query and I can get a list of the 30 highest risk assets in my inventory, in my environment. So let's say I want to take this to the editor, because we can reverse engineer everything that we do over here. So you can see how many of these devices are IT, computers, et cetera, et cetera. And if I click on one of them, I wanna have a look at one OT device. So let's go ahead on this one. You can come up to the same page and have a look at all this information that we had for the HMI in the case of the very beginning of this presentation. But in this case, well, it's going to be applicable to one particular device. What's very interesting about this, that I'm getting the latest and the most risky assets, the 30 most risky assets. And I did it by building a query based on this information that we have gathered in the form of asset risk. So it is very interesting. It is something that is worth having a look at. And if you have Vantage, don't hesitate and have a look at the asset risk set of information. So with that being said, I want to close this very short presentation and invite you to have a look at other videos. We have threat intelligence, we have short introductions to Vantage, and et cetera, et cetera. So please join us in further sessions. And with that being said, thank you very much for joining and for watching this video.